You might have seen, heard or even read that Chancellor Jeremy Hunt yesterday laid out his plans on how the Tories will take control of the economy, when he delivered the spring budget to the House of Commons.
Well, the headline announcements were a cut to national insurance and scrapping the non-dom tax status. But some prominent Tory backbenchers, including Suella Braverman and David Davis, said there wasn't enough to excite voters and change the government's political fortunes.
To take us through the big talking points, on a serious note, our chief political commentator, Peter Cardboard. Pete, good morning, how are you?
Morning, very well, thanks, yeah.
Looking excited, sort of day after?
It's Nerds Christmas.
Brilliant. Got some specific questions and some clips to play. Let's start with, how do you imagine these proposed cuts would, in layman's terms, benefit the average person in this country?
So if you earn about £35,000 a year, which is the average salary in this country, you're going to be £450 better off because of the cut in national insurance. Now, that, for many people, they think, fair enough, that's great, but the fact is that so many other things are going up. Inflation's at 4%, food inflation's higher than that. Council tax, there are a load of councils that are going out of business, that are basically bankrupt, so council tax is going up to try to sort of sort that out in many senses. There are bits of how he pays for that, how Jeremy Hunt pays for this. Non-doms you mentioned there, and what he said, if we can maybe take a look at this, he said that they're keen to take credit for getting rid of the non-doms, but obviously this is a very important thing for Rishi Sunak because his wife, Akshata Murthy, used to be a non-dom. It was Labour's policy. They went on and on about it and said it was going to pay for all sorts of things. Now the Conservatives have taken that away.
Can we watch this? We've actually got the clip of the non-dom announcement. If you could play that, please.
The government will abolish the current tax system for non-doms, get rid of the outdated concept of domicile, and I aim to please all sides of the House in all my budgets.
It's not going to be abolished straight away, though, is it, Peter?
No, it's not. It's going to take a little bit of time. And, of course, like a lot of these measures, it will take time or take place from the next financial year or so on. And it's interesting, actually, because even after the budget, I think they sort of realised that there wasn't people weren't perhaps as excited as they wanted them to be. And what they said, Jeremy Hunt said, and some of his outliers, like his ministers, said they actually want to abolish national insurance in total. The whole thing. Labour is saying, hold on, that's going back to the Liz Truss way of economics. What's the, how is that going to be paid for? 460 billion that would cost, more than the cost of COVID in the next Parliament. So really interesting they've gone down that route as well.
You got quite explosive in the Commons yesterday. Let's have a look at this. Watch this. Right, go at each other.
The party opposite opposed our plans to reduce the deficit every single step of the way. But in fairness, they were consistent. The Lib Dems supported controlling spending in coalition, but now say they would prop up a party that will turn on the spending taps. It's the difference between no plan and no principles.
Is that fighting talk? Are we really buying that?
Well, certainly the Lib Dems are putting the Conservatives under pressure. There's one poll the other day. Now, listen, polls say different things at different times. But there's one poll that said the Liberal Democrats could be the opposition in this country because the Conservatives would do so badly in the next election. So certainly the Lib Dems' tanks are on the Conservatives' lawns. They will expect to lose some seats for them. He had another jibe at Ed Davey saying it's nice to see him in the chamber because we haven't seen him a lot over the post office scandal recently. And also he took aim at Angela Rayner as well. You should see the...
Well, hopefully we will something a bit explosive in this clip.
The venom in her eyes when she wasn't entirely happy with what Jeremy Hunt said. Let's take a look at this.
All right, watch this.
I've also been looking at stamp duty relief for people who purchase more than one dwelling in a single transaction, known as multiple dwellings relief. I see the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party paying close attention, given her multiple dwellings.
We didn't even get to see her eyes.
Well, she wasn't too happy and shot back, what about your 7 houses? You're pathetic. So there we are. That's what she said.
Does all of this take away from how important it was for the average person? Did
Yes.
it become too politicised?
Yes. We're in an election year. There is no sense that the government was, and Jeremy Hunt wasn't going to... He took aim at absolutely everybody. He talked about Keir Starmer's weight, for goodness sake.
Did he?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, he did indeed.
Well, Paul Keir Starmer got a telling off, did he?
He got very personal about Keir Starmer. Before we discuss that, let's just take a look at that clip.
Come on, Jez.
I know he's been taking advice from Lord Mandelson, who yesterday rather uncharitably said he needed to shed a few pounds. Ordinary families will shed more than a few pounds if that lot get in.
So that was a bitch fest, if we're absolutely honest.
I mean, yes, basically. Now, a lot of people will say, hold on a second, what's this got to do with the price of fish? What's this got to do with me? There will be a bit more money in people's pockets,
right.
But will they actually notice it? I mean, £450, for example, with the national insurance cut over the course of a year. That's not a lot on a weekly or monthly basis. I mean, I would know if I didn't have a B in GCSE maths what that was. But really...
A B?
Yes.
Wow.
I know. But no, look, there are a lot of measures. There's a lot going on in yesterday's budget, but not many surprises. No massive rabbit out of the hat. We knew basically what was going to be in it beforehand, including this national insurance cut. We had basically the same thing in the autumn. I'd be astonished if there's a bump in the polls. I'd be astonished if there's a huge, closing of the gap between Labour and the Conservatives at the weekend and the polls that will undoubtedly come out. And, I mean, people talking about a May election, I think that's totally off the cards now. The gamble is that the economy does slightly better, that, something happens for the Conservatives, that inflation goes below 2%. But, I mean, a May election, I think, is now out.
Nick, did you watch it?
Yeah.
It looked to me, and maybe I'm wrong here, we can sit here and talk about bereft of ideas, tired and all that stuff. They looked like they were in the last term of upper sixth. Yeah. They looked like they were just demob happy, going to enjoy the next few weeks while we all struggle. It didn't look... I know Labour supporters would say about time. Yeah, I get all that. Probably there should be a generation. They seem to be laughing. And people might take what I'm going to say the wrong way, but if I was anywhere in this country struggling to pay my bills and really, really not knowing how I was going to get to the next week, I'd watch them laughing there and think, are you taking my plight seriously?
Well, there are a lot of people...
All this personal rubbish doesn't... With your average person, I think they just... Again, might not fear is the wrong word. A lot of people are switched off by politics, and I don't think that yesterday will have done them any favours whatsoever.
And slagging off Keir Starmer because of his weight, I declare my interest. Or, Angela Rayner about her multiple houses.
No, but there is that. All of them. I think politics in general.
But how does that actually... most people sitting at home, if they are indeed watching this, are probably thinking that hasn't a huge amount to do with me and what's going on in my life and the cost of living crisis. So, yes, a lot of sort of, on both sides, and Dame Eleanor Lang, the Speaker, or the Deputy Speaker...
She did well.
She did, but she had to tell both sides off. I don't think that feels relevant to people. I think this connection between politics and the people is gone. When actually, ironically, the budget is one of the few bits where there is a very strong connection between exactly what comes out of the Chancellor's mouth and how much money we all have in our pockets because of the system and the tax system and public spending.
It feels so distasteful in the middle of a cost of living crisis for them to be essentially just throwing fat jokes at each other, whilst the country, so many people are desperately listening in to see how is this going to affect me, and then they debase it in such a way.
I've never missed an opportunity. If you listened more yesterday, you'll have heard Jeremy Hunt say to Keir Starmer, if you'd like to join me in my marathon training, and I also obviously want to know, are you going to be joining Jeremy Hunt in his marathon training?
I will not be joining Jeremy Hunt. It'll come as a huge shock. But as someone who's lost over a stone in the last month or so, I perhaps I can give Keir Starmer a few tips.
Was that through running or was that through exercise?
I've got this amazing two-pronged plan, Jeremy.
Have you?
Eat less, do more exercise.
Right.
Do you know what?
It's revolutionary.
I lost 8 pounds in one day because I gave birth to a baby. Thank you so much.
I'm probably not going to do that.
I lost 8 pounds in one day having had a curry the night before, but that's another story. Thank you, gang.
Was that strictly necessary? I'm sorry.
No.
Thank you so much for coming in, Peter.
Thanks, Pete.
And also sorry, I guess.